I saw the new Beetlejuice movie, the sequel called Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. I apologize for how sleepy I sound. I couldn't record it right after I left the movie because I was with people and we were all talking about it. But I know if I don't record it now, I'm not going to remember. So, as everyone knows who listens to this podcast, I like to record it fresh. The movie was really fun. If you love the original movie and you love those characters in that world and you're a fan of Tim Burton, you know, it's like a fluffy, fun franchise movie. You know, the opening credits made me really excited. A lot of times it's like the main reason we do those franchise movies is because we just want to be back in that world again. So, like, Michael Keaton is just so extraordinary, and same with Catherine O'Hara. It's like every moment, every second watching them is just like a master class in acting. That is like the gist of like the positive things I have to say. As far as overall, the gist of if I was actually looking at like how could you make the film better or what didn't work for me, like there was too many plot points. It actually felt kind of busy. It was a little cluttered and busy. I think that if they had cut down the amount of plot points that they had and kind of focused, it would have been more effective, and overall just like an overall better film versus one that feels like you really would only enjoy it if you saw the first film. So that's my gist. Okay, spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the film and you don't want it ruined, please stop listening to the review here. I'm going to get into some more detailed aspects of the film. So I know that we looked into it. I was like, is that one character dead? The guy who was her dad? And then James looked into it. Apparently he's like a sex offender now. So obviously they wrote him out of the movie and they weren't going to like use his likeness or anything like that or recast him or whatever. Which I understand. I actually understand that part, but I thought it was really strange, and they did this like weird animation to kind of animate his death, and I just thought it was like really unnecessary. It kind of just like stood out in the film in terms of just like a weird, like it just didn't fit. It felt like I was watching Pee-wee's Playhouse and like they cut to like a Penny cartoon. I thought it was really funny, the backstory that they told about him and his ex-wife, but I thought it was a little weird that they had him speaking in Spanish, and I know it was kind of like a bit, but it just didn't, like, I guess because it was supposed to be during maybe the Spanish plague. It just felt like a little off. It felt like someone was like, let's do this, and there wasn't like a real intention behind it. I don't know fully how they did this, back in 1988, but I know that they didn't have the effects that they had now. So it was a bummer to me that the sandworm looked like way faker in this movie than it ever did in the 1988 version. Like, I love practical effects. I just felt like it just kind of took away from the charm. And there were some parts of the movie that were like the first movie, like him marrying her. I felt like that's what really good sequels do, is they pretty much do almost the same exact plot or almost the same exact kind of plot structure. I thought Jenna Ortega was really great. I feel like they kept trying to like make certain parts really poignant with like her and her mom and like the cheesy like dad, her passing kind of thing. But I don't know. It felt like a little cliche. Like I just didn't believe it. It wasn't like moving. If you're gonna do that, like have it actually work. And I love that the Lydia Dietz character was like a ghost hunter that had kind of sold out. I thought that was pretty brilliant. And they obviously set it up for a sequel. I love seeing Winona again. It's just, ever since that whole thing happened with her shoplifting, she's kind of lost her mojo in terms of acting for me. And it's really like a bummer because she was one of my favorite actresses. I thought she was like just so solid in like Little Women and so many things. And I honestly wonder, let's put it this way. I used to see her and stuff, and it's like, it felt like I was watching, this someone having an experience. Like she wasn't acting, but it was so authentic. And now when I watch her, like ever since like Stranger Things onward, I can see her acting. I can see her indicating. And it's just really kind of a bummer and kind of disappointing because I know what she's capable of. So I honestly wonder if there's just some sort of story or psychologically or some sort of thing that she's kind of stuck in because of that shoplifting thing that has her have it that she like doesn't deserve this life or that she's not good enough or something, and it's like showing up in terms of her beingness and her acting, which I always find really interesting. So anywho, obviously not as good as the first one, usually never is, but it was fun to be in the world again. But I gave you the gist of what I thought about everything else. So after talking to some friends this weekend, I actually got a couple of updates regarding this movie. So I found out that Monica Belluccio, I think that's how you pronounce her name, is currently Tim Burton's girlfriend. So it makes sense that she was in the movie, or that plot point was felt forced. But I wouldn't have actually minded that being the plot point that they went with if they had just chosen between that and the daughter conflict. It was just too much. When I also found out the writers of the film, which are also the writers of Wednesday, apparently did a very similar plot storyline in Wednesday about her falling in love with someone and him betraying her or him possibly being dead. I still need to finish Wednesday, so I can't fully speak to that. So that's kind of disappointing. And then I also found out that this movie actually went back and used a lot of practical effects like they did in the original 1988 version, which is really, really cool. I could tell that absolutely in the church, in the stuff where they were in, purgatory and they were in the office and all that stuff. I looked up and I believe the sandworm was actually stop motion as well. And my initial part of the review actually talked about how I thought it was really fake looking. But maybe I have a feeling they had to have added some sort of CGI to make it. Maybe they were trying to make it look as realistic as possible, but I wanted it to have that kind of grainy stop motion feel where it felt so tangible like the original. So even though it seems like they did use stop motion, it still threw me off when I was watching it, and I actually thought that it was CGI. So that's kind of interesting.